Continuing with our presentations, we'll use the same drawing, and in this presentation we'll cover changing layers. There are three ways to change layers, and I'll go through each of those in this presentation. Probably the easiest way was to use the layer drop-down box from the toolbar. It's fairly simple. I would go over and I would select an object without being in any sort of command so that the grips appear, the blue grips. And I've selected the circle, and I want to change that to the circle layer. I click the drop-down box, I go down to circles, I click circles. Notice that it's changed the layer now, and all I have to do is hit escape, and the layer has changed. To show you that again, I'll select the arc, I'll use the layer drop-down box, and I'll place the arc on the circles layer, and it jumps there to the circles layer, and I'll hit escape, and now the arc is on the circles layer. So that's one method for changing layers, is using the layer drop-down box on the layer toolbar. A second way is to use the Match Properties command on the standard toolbar. I go up and select Match Properties. It looks like a little paintbrush. And then it says Select Source Objects. This is the object that you want things to look like. So if I want to place an object in the line layer, I would select another object that's currently in the line layer, like this one. Then it says Select Destination Objects. I would go over and select a line that I want to change, and it changes that to the line layer. Same thing with these lines down below. I hit escape to end the command, and I have now changed my objects all to the line layer. To show you that again, I'll go up and select from the standard toolbar. I'll select one of these center lines, and I'll go down and select other two lines to change them to center lines. Hit escape to end the command. So using Match Properties is another way to change layers of an object. It's personal preference which one you would like to use, whether you use Match Properties or the layer drop-down box. An advantage of the layer drop-down box is you do not have to have an entity already on your screen of a specific layer that you want to use, like you do have to have in Match Properties. In order to use Match Properties, you have to have an object on the screen in order to select it as a source object and then apply that to destination objects. But both of them have advantages. Both of them are fairly quick. The third method here is not a recommended method, but there is a third method, and that is using the Properties tool palette. Properties tool palette has a lot of other functions, but one of them could be to change layers. So we'll run through it and introduce you to the Properties tool palette here a little bit. The Properties command is up on the standard toolbar. It's probably the most colorful icon on the standard toolbar. Go ahead and select that. It's right here. And it should bring a tool palette up on your screen. Now, it may or may not look exactly like this to begin with. I'm going to take and dock it, so I grab it. I'm going to slide it down and dock it. It's the Properties tool palette. There's a button down here where it says Auto Hide. I'm going to click on that, and it makes it into a toolbar that goes away off to the side of your screen. And basically, if I need to use it, I just hover over the top of it, and it pops back out. I go away, and it goes away. So it's kind of nice to have that feature on, so it's not taking up so much space on your drawing. But as beginners and stuff, maybe you want to have it locked into place in the open position. Now, how to use that, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to select a couple of objects. I'll select the center lines in the bottom of the screen. When I go over here, I'm going to select where it says Layer. I click on it where it says Center. Drop down. I want to change that back to Lines, and I click Lines. So the layer is now Lines. Notice the color is by layer, and the line types by layer, line weights by layer. So there are several things there that are all by layer. To provide best layer management, you should always leave things to be by layer, so the layer is the governing factor of color, line types, and line weights. Now if I want to change those lines back to the hidden layer, I just click on where it says Lines or Layer, use the drop-down box, find Hidden, select it, and notice off to your side of your screen the objects have already changed. I hit Escape to deselect the objects, and it goes back into a general mode here where there's nothing selected. Now if I select an object like a circle, it gives me information about that circle. So it will always give you information about something that is selected, and if you have two entities selected like a circle and a line that are in different layers, notice that you don't get a lot of information because it tells you layers varies, line type scale is 1, so it doesn't give you a lot of information because it has to be available with each entity in order to list it on the Properties and Tool palette. Hit Escape. So there are three methods to change layers: the Layer drop-down box, Match Properties, and the Properties tool palette. One last thing that I want to show you before ending this presentation is on the Properties tool palette, you can adjust the line type scale for individual entities. If you go up to the line type scale here and we type in LTS at the command line and hit enter, scale factor is 1. Let's type in 4, enter. Notice the dashes down here at the bottom of the screen get quite large. I'm going to hit Escape. Now if I select one of those lines and I go over here to line type scale, it says 1, but you know I just set it to 4. Okay, this is 1, meaning like 100%. It's going to be equal to whatever the global LT scale is set at the command line. If I want to change this, and if I typed in 0.5, enter, I'm going to hit Escape so you can see it. It's going to change out here on the screen, so the line type scale for that one entity, that line, will be half of what the global setting is set at. And if I go back and change the global setting and type in LTS at the command line and change that to 2, enter. Okay, look at the bottom. Notice that the dashes got smaller on both lines. One just went from 4 to 2, and the other one was from 4 to 2 also, but then half of that, so it got smaller even yet. So that's just another way to modify or customize your entities a little bit using the line types and the line type scale factor on the Properties tool palette. I don't recommend doing this a lot. Just like with leaving things by layer, it is much easier and less confusing if you always leave your line type scale in the Properties tool palette to be set at 1. When you change things, change them by layer in the Layer Properties or Layer Management tool, and leave it at that. When you start modifying things and changing things so that the color is not by layer anymore, and the line types aren't by layer, and the line type scales are mixed up, and the line weights are mixed up, you might as well not even use layers. And layers are used for organization, and they're a very strong, powerful component of drawing in AutoCAD. So always use your layers to manage your entities. Don't start individualizing those items. There are a few exceptions, but very, very few exceptions. If you have any questions at all or clarifications, I'd be glad to share more with you on that. So that wraps up this presentation for changing layers. If you have any questions, make sure to contact me.